Hello again and welcome to another look at the week's weather courtesy of Netweather.tv. A relatively easy week coming up, I think, because for most of the time the weather's going to be dominated by high pressure, though in a way it's sometimes called a weatherman's nightmare because you have to decide when and where the cloud is going to be. But as I say, it certainly does look as if it's going to be fine and settled for the foreseeable future. Of course, one major event we've got coming up this weekend is the Grand National. And believe it or not, I've won money on every Grand National for the last few years, and my secret is to always bet on horses with a weather sort of name. And this year we have two of them, or we may well have, it depends on whether they were drawn at the last minute. But we have Snowy Morning, which is a good one I think, and Cloudy Lane. So there you are, there's my secret, and we may well all be in the money by this time next week. But as I said, as far as the weather's concerned, it's mostly going to be dominated by high pressure. If we have a look at the pressure pattern, at the moment we've got low pressure to the north of Iceland. That's been giving us some rather unsettled weather recently, but that's dying a death. And we've now got high pressure taking over, and that's going to be ridging towards Scandinavia as time goes on. And unfortunately, of course, that's the sort of thing that's been happening on and off for months and months and months now. We've always had, or we've often had, high pressure over Scandinavia. Fortunately, at this time of the year, the continent and Russia's not that bitterly cold, but even so, as the high pressure moves towards Scandinavia and low pressure begins to develop over France and Spain, we will get a squeeze in between, and we will get some easterly winds strengthening up as time goes on, and they will be rather chilly because, if nothing else, they're coming over what is in fact a very cold North Sea. Let's have a look now at the thickness pattern, the temperature of the atmosphere. And to begin with, over the weekend, things are looking quite favourable, quite spring-like in places. An area of orange air moving across the country, giving reasonable temperatures. That is, assuming you can keep away from the onshore winds and the cloud. But that doesn't last very long, because as the high pressure starts to dominate and increase over Scandinavia, we get those easterly winds pulling in. Fortunately, they're going to be easterly rather than northerly, because just look at that cold air lurking there over Greenland and the Arctic. But we are going to get somewhat cooler air moving eastwards from the continent. You notice that the yellows have disappeared, and we've got bluish green colours coming in, indicating there certainly will be, if nothing else, rather a chill in the air. I've got a very important event taking place this weekend, and that's the World Cowpat Throwing Championships, would you believe? And they're taking place in Beaver, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State is one of the states that the storm chasers will be visiting, or do visit, on their annual trip to find tornadoes. I went, as you know, a couple of years ago. Anyhow, back to this country, and let's have a look at the day-to-day weather. As far as Friday is concerned, the high pressure is going to be slipping in across the country, beginning to dominate the scene, which means to say that everywhere, or virtually everywhere, is going to be dry with variable cloud. And some sunshine as well, more particularly I think in the more sheltered western areas. In the northwest, that means northwest Scotland especially, perhaps also Northern Ireland and northwest England, you'll find some thicker cloud, perhaps just giving one or two spits and spots of rain. Temperatures mostly near normal, but it will feel cooler I think around some of the coast, especially where you get an onshore wind. On the other hand, if you get a reasonable amount of sunshine, it will be rather warm. Now on Saturday, of course, that's the big day. That's when we're having the Grand National at Aintree, and I think it's going to be fine and dry. And again, with the wind beginning to pick up from the east, the best of the sunshine is going to be in the north and west, where it will feel rather warm, which is just as well, because Aintree is sheltered up near Liverpool in the northwest there. So I think it's got a pretty good chance of getting some reasonable weather. Whereas on the other hand, if you're on the east coast, or maybe even the south coast, it will be fairly chilly and fairly cloudy. On Sunday, the easterly wind begins to strengthen a little bit more, so it'll stay fairly cloudy, I think, in the south and east. Local drizzle even near coasts and hills. Temperatures there near normal, or even a little bit on the chilly side. But again, in the more sheltered northern and western areas, you can expect some sunshine, and you can expect it to feel quite warm. And we have the marathons taking place in Blackpool on Sunday. We don't want too much warmth, of course, that's not good for the runners, but I think it's going to be a nice day nevertheless. On Monday, the easterly wind has more effect, I think a little bit stronger. So on the North Sea coast, the east coast, feeling particularly chilly. and staying quite damp and drizzly, I think, in many places. But the further inland you are, the better the chance of the clouds thinning and breaking. But again, the best of any sunshine is going to be in the extreme north and west, where it will turn out to be rather warm, as against the cool and the chill near and on that eastern coast and even parts of the south coast. Heading into the middle and latter part of next week, very little changes. We keep high pressure dominating the scene, which means to say many places will be fine and dry. We've got to really decide where the cloud's going to break to give you the best of the sunshine, but again mostly in the north and west. In fact, some thicker cloud in the southeast of England could well produce some showers from time to time, and a weak little weather front dangling across the north of Scotland could give them some spells of rain, light rain, patchy rain from time to time as well. Incidentally, where the cloud does break from time to time, this applies to any night. Not necessarily good news for gardeners and growers, because there could be a touch of frost. Anyhow, that's all from me. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll be joining you, or hope you can join me again in the foreseeable future. Bye for now.